This is not the man I met. He is egotistical, he disrespects me.
This entire marriage has been forced upon me.
When you don't have trust, when you don't have that foundation, the relationship is over before it starts.
I'm at my breaking point. He has a problem with spending.
You have champagne taste on a soda water budget.
Yes,
What's
honey,
going on?
come on, champagne taste. It's about the taste, not about the budget.
I can't trust him anymore. The man that I married would never have done that.
I'm not going to advise her to try to make this work because I think it's dangerous. I think it's gone beyond that. Here is today's case.
He says his wife is verbally abusive, controlling, and untrustworthy. She also has a drinking problem, and when she goes out, she comes home with random numbers from men. She says she drinks to cope with stress. Can they fix their marriage, or is it too late? That's today's case on Divorce Court.
Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Your Honor, our virtual audience is filled with your superfans. Today's superfan of the day is Andreina from Anaheim, California.
Andreina, welcome to Divorce Court. As my special guest today, I'm sending you a signed copy of my book, Sis, Don't Settle. Enjoy.
Your Honor, this is the case of Rodriguez versus Rodriguez.
Thank you, Juan. Mr. Eli Rodriguez,
Yes, Your Honor.
you have brought your wife, Miss Iris Rodriguez,
Yes, Your Honor.
to divorce court today. I understand the two of you have been married for 5 years.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
But you said, sir, that you have reached a breaking point
I have.
because of some serious issues that have developed over the course of these 5 years in your marriage with your wife.
That is correct.
Okay, I'll start with you, sir. Give me some background as to why you brought this case.
Well, I love my wife very much, first and foremost, but unfortunately, there's just a lot of problems in our relationship that don't seem to be able to get settled. And if these things continue this way, this will probably be the end of the story because these things can't continue to happen. It's a bad setting for our family. It's a bad setting just all around.
Well, can you give me some quick examples of what you mean?
Well, she has problems with respecting me as her husband. She has a problem with alcohol abuse. And then also she's very controlling and demanding. And, you know, she's also very manipulative over the children as well.
What do you have to say, Ms. Rodriguez?
Your Honor, I'm here today because my husband is emotionally abusive towards me. He's not there for me. He's also always pinning the kids against me and just paints me out as a terrible person in front of everyone. Doesn't notice anything that I do. So I love him too, but if these things don't change, I'm willing to walk away as well.
Why don't you give me some specific, I've read your papers, and I've read some very specific allegations you've made. They're serious. Why don't you give me some examples of what you say is your wife's destructive behavior?
Well, one of the biggest things that her destructive behavior revolves around, Your Honor, is basically her drinking. You know, she's had experiences with drinking before, and it just makes her really angry, really belligerent. She starts to become very disrespectful. She starts to mouth off to me in front of the children. She'll tell me things like how I'm not a good husband, how I'm a horrible father. And also with situations like that, I always get concerned because when she goes out drinking, she tends to come home after a night of drinking and there's random situations going on. She has people calling her phone, dudes calling her phone, and it's that type of situation.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Well, how often do you say she's going out drinking?
Well, thankfully, recently, she actually just came to a stop after 3 months, so I'm very, very proud of that. But my biggest fear is that, you know, she might, you know, we might have an argument and the emotional state that she's in when she leaves the house might make her to go drink, and then she might come home and become belligerent, and that's a big problem.
You're concerned about a relapse is what you're saying?
Yes, I am concerned.
And when you say she drinks, how much are we talking about? You're talking about getting passed out drunk, drinking in excess? What are you saying?
He has no idea. He's never been there for me.
I honestly don't have any idea because since I'm not there, I'm not able to see what's going on. She's come home sometimes where she's been somewhat coherent, and there's been other times where I just really don't know who I'm dealing with at the moment.
What do you have to say, Ms. Rodriguez?
Okay, well, stepping into the alcoholism, I want to mention that I went through depression and my husband just was not there for me through that point. The way my husband would treat it is, that doesn't exist. Depression isn't real. This is something you're doing to yourself. You need to figure it out, get up and figure things out. That was when my drinking started taking place. It started very little, and then little by little, it led on to being worse. And that was because emotionally, I didn't feel that he was there for me. He wasn't listening to what I was feeling, and I went through that by myself. Fast forward, once the drinking got really bad, I never felt or could never go to my husband and say, hey, I need help with this. My husband literally treated me as if my drinking was a good reason for him to say, well, if you continue this route, I'm going to take the kids away from you. I was
How
afraid.
bad did your drinking get?
It got really bad, Your Honor. There were moments where I couldn't tell you how much I drank. I would black out. It's not something I'm proud of, but I have made the change.
And you're saying that it stems from him? That the problem was him?
Yes, it was absolutely him. If he would have been there for me to begin with, I don't feel that it would have gotten that bad. I feel like I would have had
Your
the
Honor,
support system that I needed.
It's, as a person who's a provider in the household, it's not possible for me to be there at home all the time. I'm often working. You know, she works also, but, you know, her money is pretty much just being used for the things that she needs. I'm the one that handles them.
That's not true,
So
Your
you're
Honor.
saying, in terms of the financial responsibility in the household, you're saying you carry the weight?
I carry the majority of the weight, yes.
I'm currently the breadwinner at the moment. We both have our own businesses, and right now mine is doing better than his. So and this is what I mean, like, I always feel like I'm doing so much and I never get seen, so why
So who's
even
paying the
bother?
bills?
We both pay the bills. Yeah.
Is it a 50-50 split?
It's supposed to be,
But
yes.
you said that in the past it wasn't.
Vision is not.
But now it is.
We're getting there, yeah.
When he met me, I was a party girl. I hung out with a lot of friends. We would bar hop, and that's
So you've been
just the
drinking for a
fact.
long time.
The instability caused her to fall right back into the situation, and then now we're here.
The instability of having no emotional support. That's what it means.
You said that you're having an issue with being disparaged about what kind of father you are. What's happening?
Well, I try my best to be as accommodating to the children as well as to her. So one of the children is fascinated with playing on video games. So I developed a system that in order for them to be able to get on the video games, there's chores that they have to do. A list of chores equals a certain amount of time on the video games. Well, when she comes home from work, she decides that she wants to add on or pile on more chores, and the child becomes upset, and now we have a problem because I have a system put in place. She comes home and she disrupts that system, and now the child doesn't want to do the chores because they feel like it's too much work.
Okay, is that true?
So, no. The reason why he feels like I'm putting too much work is because he does absolutely nothing. And what I mean by that is I also work, and I have to come home and cook and clean as well. He feels that he doesn't need to do that and that I'm the only one who's supposed to do that when I'm at home. He thinks everyone else should contribute to the cleaning process, but he does nothing. And if he did, it wouldn't feel like so much is put on me or any of our kids because it would be all of us. That is how a marriage works.
And this has been going on for, the two of you
Too long.
actually were together for 5 years before you got married.
Yes, Your Honor.
What was your dating relationship like before you got married?
When I met her, I fell head over heels for her. We met through a mutual friend. We were friends for some time before we actually started dating. And when we started dating, there were some issues that happened, but I looked past those issues because I loved her, and you know, she's a person that I want to spend the rest of my life.
What do you mean by issues?
Like I said, issues with disrespect, issues with the alcohol.
Before you got married?
Before we got married,
So she was already drinking?
she was.
I thought you said you were drinking because of what was going on in your relationship and you weren't getting
that's
enough
when
attention.
it came back. When he met me, I was a party girl. I hung out with a lot of friends. We would bar hop, and that's
So you've been
just the
drinking for a
path.
long time.
I stopped drinking for a long time before that came
But
back.
I just want to be clear
Yes.
that you were drinking a lot before the two of you ever got married.
Yes, ma'am.
And you noticed that you're saying you noticed that it was an issue before you got married?
I noticed that it was an issue before we got married, but as she stated, for some time, she did actually stop drinking. I was very proud and very happy at that time. But unfortunately, you know, the instability caused her to fall right back into the situation, and then now we're here.
The instability of having no emotional support. That's what it means.
Now that I have the bigger picture, Ms. Rodriguez, it sounds like there's a history there.
Yes.
Prior to Mr. Rodriguez ever playing a role, as you say. And so the question is, what are your triggers that causes you to lean on alcohol? You may say it was him during this marriage, but obviously before this marriage, it was something else. So that's where I see a need for professional help on your end, because you're not in a position where you can go back to drinking, because as you can see in the past, it's triggered a lot of destructive behavior for you.
She'll tell me that I'm a bad father, I'm a of a husband.
Why are you saying those things to him?
Okay, he says bad things to me, so I say them in return. He curses me out. He says ugly things by text.
You just painted a completely different picture for me in court today. If you'd like your case to be heard on divorce court, call us toll-free 1-877-311-2222 or log on to our website at divorcecourt.com. Miss the show? Watch full episodes on our streaming platforms and follow us on social media for exclusive content. I want to ask you about something else. You say that there's an issue with a volatile temper or with not being able to handle anger in an emotionally mature way. What's happening?
Yes, there is, and that issue is, that issue becomes amplified with the drinking. So she becomes very verbally abusive when she gets upset. She'll tell me that I'm a bad father. She'll tell me that I'm a of a husband. She'll tell me that she could do so much better than me. Wow. Things of that nature. When you're receiving those words from somebody who's supposed to love you, that does something to you.
And so why are you saying those things to him?
Okay, he says bad things to me, so I say them in return.
So you're saying he's saying these things to you, and you're only saying these things in retaliation?
He calls me out of my name. He curses me out. He says ugly things by text. If we are talking on the phone, little bit that we talk, because he never calls me, I have to search for him. I have to text him, hey, call me, what are you doing?
So Mr. Rodriguez, I have to stop right here, because you just painted a completely different picture for me in court today. But she is saying this only happens because you start these verbal assaults on her.
No, ma'am. As I stated, it could be a situation where she's happy one moment, something might happen, she gets upset, and then she rolls with that. And that's where the offensive words start going on.
Your Honor, he wants me to be the bad guy, but he's emotionally abusive just as much. And I do want to mention that the biggest problem that I have with him is not even having a phone call throughout the day. If he's working or I'm working, he's not that busy enough to where he can't say hello to me, how are you? And yet I see him on social media saying, hey, how are you guys? I'm doing this and this. That hurts me, and I let him know that.
So he's going live on the gram
all the time, but tells me
I
can't contact you, I can't talk to you. And then if I do call him or something like that, and we're not agreeing on something, he'll hang up in my face. He's known for as long as I've known him that hurts me.
Did the two of you ever do premarital counseling or postmarital counseling?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Neither.
This case is a difficult one because there's a lot of history here, and much of it is shaped by trauma, hurt, and mental health issues that have now come to define your marriage.
Right.
Getting the obvious out of the way, Ms. Rodriguez, you need professional help to deal with your drinking, because when something else comes up, when you're triggered in another way, you don't want to relapse. And because you've done that in the past, it's something that you need to address.
Right.
So that's the first part of my ruling. And Juan, I would like for you to introduce her to Mr. Pullican, our behavioral specialist, after we leave court today, so that we can make a recommendation for you. Okay. Where do you live?
In Louisiana.
Y'all are from Louisiana?
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.
New
Now listen,
Orleans,
we got to get
Louisiana.
ourselves together here. I'm from Louisiana. We got to represent when we leave court today. You understand?
Yes, Your
Yes,
Honor.
ma'am.
And we're not responsible for the trauma that's happened in our lives, but we are responsible for our healing, Ms. Rodriguez. And so you have to take ownership of that.
I'm totally okay with doing that. I just want him to not use that against me as
That you're getting help?
no, right, because he's always threatened that he's going to take the kids. That's the only reason I have not searched professional help.
Okay, so.
Your Honor, if I may, the only reason I've ever said anything like that is because I just felt so completely distraught about what was going on that I felt like I needed to take myself and my children out of that situation. I've asked her to get help. I've asked her to seek counseling as well. And like I said, she's on 3 months sober now. I'm really, really, really happy about that. I just wanted to keep going this way because she's the person that I want to grow old with and die with.
I believe Mr. Rodriguez on that. And it's very concerning because if you really want to know the quickest way to destroy romance, intimacy, friendship, all of those things that go hand in hand with marriage, it really is unkindness. And treating the person that you're with, the person that you're supposed to be turning to when you need help, instead of turning to them, you're turning on them. And if you really want this marriage to work, you got to stop turning on each other. You start turning to each other. But your husband cannot be your sole source of help and your sole source of the person that you look to rely on. Yes, he's a person you should rely on, but he can't be that sole source because he's not a professional. He does not know how to deal with depression. He does not know how to deal with alcoholism. This is something that people are trained to deal with every day. That's not him. So you need help outside of this marriage. There's been some real damage to your family. The things that you said to each other in the past, the things that have happened, you can't go back and change them. So the question really becomes, how do you move forward and build a foundation for the future if this is somebody that you say you want to grow old with? So then you find out after these 10 years, after these 5 years, how does my wife want to be loved? Is it the phone calls? Is it the little things that she's saying she wants? She don't want to see you going on Instagram Live, but you hadn't been in touch with her all day.
If I'm able...
So, Mr. Rodriguez, this is when you listen.
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand? You know, the real simple things that help keep a marriage going, they always say it's the day-to-day. It's the day-to-day that gets you. Just that phone call to check in, just to let her know you're thinking about her, just to let her know that she is appreciated, especially during this time of her life when she's 3 months sober. And then finally, you're never gonna find true long-term happiness unless you really address the deeper underlying issues that the two of you are dealing with. A relationship will only be as healthy as the two people who are in it. So you've got to do some work to get yourself to a healthy place, Ms. Rodriguez, because your marriage is suffering because you haven't been there for quite some time. And not only does that mean individual counseling and therapy, but then you go as a couple. Because you've got to learn how to communicate with each other. You've got to learn how to, when you're angry, how to handle your anger in an emotionally mature way. And you've got to learn how to treat each other like you're on the same team, even when you're upset. It's not about winning an argument. It's about finding a resolution when there are problems and working to do it together. That's my judgment. I wish both of you well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. As far as getting professional help, because I do know that that's something that's really important, especially through something as difficult as addiction. And I'm really looking forward to moving forward with that and starting new or starting fresh. That's what I want to do.
Well, what I'm gonna do to change basically is be a lot more attentive to her, make sure that I'm making contact with her more than once or twice a day, and then also making sure that I'm staying off of social media as well.
So I'm gonna communicate with him more. I'm going to be less verbally abusive and just see him for what he does.
I love you, man.
I love you too.
I want to grow with you.
Thank you.